Welcome back. And as we were talking about the sustainable development and the various topics that are ranged and related to sustainable development, we're very delighted to be having here with us live over the phone Ambassador Hussein Hareedy. He's former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Ambassador Hareedy.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Fine.
Let us first talk about the Aswan Forum 2 that was held in Aswan, tackling the various topics ranging from sustainable development goals, economic growth, and coronavirus. What is the significance of such a forum?
Well, this forum, the idea of the forum was launched 2 years ago during the Egyptian presidency of the African Union, 2019-2020. And the idea was that to stress the interrelationships between stability, peace, security, and development. And the Egyptian policy has always been to emphasize the need for stabilization in order to pursue the development goals that are set in the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, which is the sustainable development, a certain set of objectives in economy, in education, in job creation, in women empowerment. So the idea of the forum, and this is the second edition of the forum, is that to stress these interrelationships. And as a matter of fact, without peace, without security, without political stability, it's very difficult to imagine that African countries would be able to carry out the objectives in the Agenda 2063. Of course, this year is special in the sense that Africa has been stricken with the coronavirus pandemic. And Africa has incurred very heavy financial losses. The economic impact of the pandemic on the rate of growth in Africa has been negative. Add to that the fact that some African countries are highly indebted and they are not in a situation to meet their financial obligations. So, but I guess the world powers, the G20, the international financial and economic institutions, and on top of that, the World Health Organization, the WHO, of course, are gearing up to help, to a certain extent, African countries in meeting the challenges, economic, social, financial, of facing the pandemic and containing it. And so the second edition of the Aswan Forum took place in this context. And of course, Africa has some way to go in the next 2 or 3 years in order to overcome the negative impact of the pandemic on its economies.
Right. The forum's second edition is organized under the theme Shaping Africa's New Normal. That includes also recovering stronger, rebuilding better. In your own opinion, what is the new normal now to humanity, and how Africa could be dealing with the various evolving pandemics according to climate change?
Well, climate change is another challenge, not only for Africa, but a challenge for mankind. Of course, we have seen the ravages of climate change on some countries in the United States and in other places. And I guess with the new American administration joining once again the Paris Climate Accord of December 2015, I guess there is a chance now, there is a very strong chance that world powers would really meet the objectives in fighting climate change. Africa is a victim of climate change. our contribution to the negative effects of climate change are negligible to other regions in the world. And in this respect, I guess the United States and China, two main polluters for decades, are called upon to shoulder their burden in lowering the gas emissions. Of course, but Africa, of course, is ready to play its role, although it's a very minor role. And the climate change, the coronavirus pandemic, the high foreign debts of many African countries, the need to improve and to modernize the infrastructure in Africa. Of course, we have many challenges to face and overcome, but I believe that there is a political will in doing that. Speaking of which, I guess in his remarks before the inaugural session of the second edition of the Aswan Forum, President Sisi referred to strengthening partnership between the African Union and the United Nations. And I guess this is very important, that the African Union, African countries, if they want to be in a position to really overcome and deal with the negative consequences of the pandemic, of coronavirus, and of climate change, they have to really strengthen and consolidate their partnerships, not only with the United Nations, but with the European Union and as well as with the international financial and economic institutions. Of course, there is. This morning, I read in a leading British paper some estimates of the International Monetary Fund on the opportunity cost until 2025. That is to say, 4 years from now of the pandemic. They are speaking about trillions of dollars, and the share of Africa in this opportunity cost is high. So, but there is a political will, and we have to stick to the objectives previously laid down within the African Union on the development goals till 2063. And if Africa has to make some adjustments, let's make it. But let's be optimistic. Let's be optimistic.
We always have to be optimistic. The President also highlighted the serious economic and social impacts coronavirus pandemic have contributed to exacerbating the dangers facing the continent. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the challenges facing Africa are varied from, like we said earlier, the foreign debt load, the foreign debt burden, and the economic and financial cost of the pandemic, the lack of infrastructure. What else? Terrorism, job creation. This is something that we should never lose sight of. By the year 2050, African population will reach 1 billion people. That is 30 years from now, 3 decades from now, and half of the 1 billion people will be under 30 years old. So that's just, you can imagine the magnitude of the challenging facing African governments in finding jobs to 500 million people in the next 30 years. So we have to think seriously, deeply about these challenges. Are we going to meet them? Well, it remains to be seen.
Right. We cannot observe the political scene or pass without noticing that important event or important front that took place, which is the meeting between the Egyptian Foreign Minister, His Excellency Mr. Samah Shukri, and his Sudanese counterpart. Of course, Egypt and Sudan have always maintained deeply rooted ties. What are your thoughts over this very important meeting that took place earlier?
Well, obviously, the two countries, the two governments, particularly after the Sudanese revolution in 2018, and the successes so far by the ruling regime in Khartoum, have really put Egyptian-Sudanese relations on the right track. And I guess that lately we have seen very close coordination between the two governments, and parallel to the meeting between the two foreign ministers of Sudan and Egypt, the Egyptian chief of staff was in Sudan to preside over the 7th meeting of the joint military commission between the two countries. And when President Sisi received the Sudanese foreign minister, he stressed a fact that the national security of Egypt is linked to the national security of Sudan. Of course, in these meetings, particularly the ministerial meeting and the meeting with the president, of course, the two countries have pointed out their joint positions on the Aswan, on the Renaissance Dam, and we have to welcome the Ethiopian, and I say that with some caution. We have to welcome the Ethiopian reaction to the joint Egyptian and Sudanese position on the Renaissance Dam. The Ethiopians, as you may recall, Madam, 2 days ago said that they would welcome the resumption of negotiations. Let's hope that it would be earlier, and then that they would negotiate in goodwill. And they have to prove what they mean by goodwill. Of course, the main concern of Sudan and Egypt is the second filling of the Renaissance Dam that's due to start in next July. And the two countries agreed that they want to reach an agreement with Ethiopia before the beginning of the second filling of the Renaissance.
Right, hopefully, inshallah. Ambassador Hussein Hareedy.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Foreign Minister. Would like to thank you so much for talking to the Breakfast Show. And I guess with this final segment, we come to the end of this morning's Breakfast Show. Thank you very much for joining us, and hope to see you again once again tomorrow. Bye-bye.